All right, stocks by the numbers. Welcome back. Quick update here on SoundHound, which had a pretty good day today, of course, just like everything else across the board. SoundHound, SOUN, again, there's a voice AI stock. 883, a close on the day up $1.65, roughly 23% rebound here. Recently dropped down sub 7. If anyone was able to scoop up some shares, you can see a low 652 here to start out Monday, and then was on the up and up. Now, just like we just looked at with Bitcoin, we approach some key support levels. Looks like we had some nice bounces, but just like a lot of other equities, we are kind of sitting near these resistance levels. So even if we do have run-ups, I still say it may be short-lived. That's close enough. And we'll come down like there, right? Wait, where's my top? There it is. Bang, like there. Yeah, I guess, yeah, technically it's kind of right around there. Because you can see the top there, right? That's the top there, basically top body of that little candle there, the rejection right there. And then you can see we bounced and basically came up right to that resistance level, right? And of course, we're down a handful of cents here after hours. So we might see the rejection off of that resistance level as well. SoundHound I am still bullish on, but of course we know, just like we said, all of these up and coming, growing names that we liked that performed very well for us over about the last year or two, we know that they really exploded in value. So that's why this pullback down to earth, I mean, the only ones who were really upset are the people who bought around here. So if you were looking at a trending name, regardless of what it was, whether it was international defense like Rolls-Royce, it was something domestic that was showing good growth like Hims and Hers Health, right? Even SoundHound, we've seen the revenue, consistently tick up. That's why there was always more and more value here, in my opinion, right? But we did technically go on a massive run. I mean, we were at 2.5. We got the NVIDIA news. We kept beating earnings. We were hanging out 4, 5, 6. And then we had the squeeze break up here to above 20 plus. And now technically we're down roughly 60% from the highs, but we're still up like, 300% in change, 400% from when we first looked at the stock, right? So you can't get too upset. But I just wanted to point out this resistance level here. And of course, a lot of these key trend lines cutting down, cutting across. That's why I was personally saying, even a while back here and back here, I was saying that in my opinion, look for SoundHound to approach these trend lines and look for around $7, potentially the break to $7. And you can see we got that, and then we had the bump up. But I do still think that we come back down, believe it or not. I think we retest the low 7s here at these trend lines. You have this fib here at 706. And believe it or not, I think we could even see a breakdown there. Potentially 580, sub $6. Because, yes, I agree. SoundHound, long term, definitely value there, right? We know this. We're seeing it already. But technically, in the numbers, we are overvalued, right? And that's what I always used to say, that in volatile markets, so now you wake up tomorrow, let's just say, we drop back down half of this, right? All of a sudden, NASDAQ's back down 1,000 points, right? Markets rejected off of their moving averages and their resistance levels, right? So now you wake up, something like SoundHound absolutely can drop down even further and come down into the 6s, right? We're talking about $3.5 billion market cap for a company operating at a loss, that even though we're seeing growing revenue when we're getting more and more deals, again, even if we want to cancel out the loss, right? Company brought in around, 80 million, 100 million, we'll call it. Market cap, $3.5 billion, right? So that's what I was always worried about with the gap up here and then the big squeeze explosion breakout that took place here towards the end of the year, is because technically on paper, the company could be viewed as overvalued. So if we do start to have big market pullbacks, something like SoundHound can absolutely come back down to earth, basically where it was. So, again, technically, in the numbers, is overvalued. However, long term, we know that there's value here. Apparently, a class action suit. Apparently, if you're a publicly traded company, you get sued. That's the one thing I'm seeing here. Even if a stock goes up or goes down, it doesn't matter. Class action suits. Okay, contact us. That's all we're hearing about. Class action suit, class action suit. Class action suit. My goodness. Does anyone else have anything to say? Look at this. Look at this. Look at this. Misleading accounting. What is this? Overstating its ability to integrate recent acquisition. Well, yeah, keyword there is recent acquisitions. I mean, you know, sometimes it doesn't always go swimmingly. Interesting. I don't know. See, that's what I mean. These are people who Johnny-come-latelys, right? They jump in as the stock was being squeezed. They saw a little bit of profit, and then it started to drop down and tank and come back down to earth, and now all of a sudden they're saying, oh, this company lied to me. No, they didn't lie to you. They didn't lie to you. You are, unfortunately, the average, uneducated, inexperienced investor, right? You bought late. I mean, you know. Because, again, look at all the times we looked at it back here. I mean, literally, we looked at it like here, 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 right? So literally any time, if you bought this stock at any time, you saw huge returns. So that's why to see people seeing dips down now, it's just laughable. You know, now they're getting upset. They're looking for class action suits. Integrates NVIDIA AI Enterprise for voice assistance. Reading. My goodness. This is going back to March, though. We've looked since March. All right, so basically it seems like the only news is that there's a class action suit. But in my opinion, I do still like it. But again, I just wanted to point out the recent drop down to these trend lines here, about 7 and change, and the fact that we're sitting right at the resistance level, just like a lot of others, and we could potentially see the drop down and the rejection here. Let's check stock charts real quick. I'll let you go. RSI on SOUN, basically middle of the road, sitting at about 47 and change. 200-day moving average, 875. We technically closed above it. We are technically below it after hours. MACD potentially right there, ready to cross to the upside. We probably have a slight cross here on the big 23% day today. So again, we have to see now if we pop up to 9.5, or if we reject, like we might be seeing here across the board. We might see a slight rejection here on the indexes and of course on a lot of the individual stocks. So have to see if it holds that. Technically right now, again, it's right below the 200-day after hours, so we might have a rejection on the MACD cross, rejection off the resistance trend line right here, coming down and across. Let's check the weekly. RSI at about 46. We were channeling downward. Again, we had the big jump today. 50-day moving average on the weekly, 841. Stock at 883. I don't know. I do think it rejects. I really do. Again, I'm not trying to be pessimistic, but we had a big drop, which in my opinion was long overdue, and then we immediately spiked back up. I mean, again, technically, if we're going to be a more fundamentally sound market and we're playing off of daily news updates, we know that, again, Trump could come out and say anything tomorrow and markets explode again and SOUN goes to 12, right? So right now, day to day, it's hard to call with an administration like Trump's. But MACD's been selling off bigly, basically back to 2024 levels. Potential curling starting. But again, I do think we drop back down. We could definitely see this 4.25 level again. We definitely could. That would cut the value in half. That would bring us to a market cap of about 1.7 billion in change. We'd still technically be overvalued at that point. So we do have to take it day by day, but this stock has been swinging, and again, it approached those trend line levels that we spoke about, the pullback back to around the 7s. So I figured I'd jump on, do a little update. Let's check the pivot points real quick. I'll let you go. Pivot point on the weekly, 650. Stock hit a low, 652, and then began to climb. So we technically didn't test that pivot point So now again, we have to see, do we reject? If we do reject off of the resistance and the moving averages, then we're going to come back down. We're going to retest 650 and potentially break to 6. Or markets could just rage and it goes back to 15. Checking on the daily here, we can see pivot point 670. We hit 652. We spike right back up. 918 is our next pivot point. 918. Wait, let me zoom in here. 918. Now that would be above the 200-day. That'd be in between that. No, I'm sorry, the 20-day. Excuse me. That'd be in between the 20-day and this trend line here. Could happen. Again, technically, if we go, let's see if we go by the highs here. 24.98. It's close enough. Right, if we touch the top of that little candle, still not much of a move, too tight. All right, so I guess it's basically going to come down to what the markets want to do, right? Because again, we do have the potential MACD crossing after that big spike up, right at the moving average, right at the resistance trend lines. So again, if futures are up big, markets open up big green, then we're going to spike straight up. We're going to get above 9, and we're going to make our way to 9.5, potentially 10 and change here. If markets reject off of their moving averages, then of course we're going to drop back down. But I still say, believe it or not, I think that in single digits, this could be a decent buy. But again, I'm just worried that I'm worried that the big market sell-offs weren't only going to last a couple of days, and then we had the big bounce back. You know, because right now everyone acts like it's not a big deal, but when it was first mentioned, it was like a huge deal, and that's why I feel like anything else that's mentioned that could potentially take value away from the market is going to seriously pull back the indexes even more. Right, we look at the Dow and you can see we broke down, came basically right down to the fib, spiked up. Look at that body stopping right at our trend line right there. So that's why, again, we could have the potential rejection and we can pull right back down to sub 40K. NASDAQ, same thing. Look, we pulled back to these trend lines. Look at today, basically right to that trend line. Look at that. Right to that trend line. Look, goes right up to the 20-day and then has a slight rejection and closes. So that's why, again, see how we're hitting this potential resistance level on the major indexes. We're hitting it on Bitcoin we just looked at. We're hitting it on a lot of individual equities. So that's why I have a feeling that we might see even a little bump and then we start selling off and pulling back. So I just want you to be aware of the swings that could be coming. S&P kind of looks a little better, right? We chunked up above some of these support levels. So even the S&P as well, you might see a little run up here to the 20-day, and then you start to see the pullback here, back to the trend line here, about 52.70 and change, right? Because technically we're close to this as well. What was this high? 6147. Yeah, it's close enough, right? And if we come down there to the right, the body of that candle is the high of that candle, right? You can see, even if we spike up straight up, 5,600, right? So you can see a 150-point move, which would be, you know, roughly 3% jump tomorrow. It could happen, but then you might see an immediate rejection, right? So it might be one of those things where futures are continued to be up off of today, yesterday's good news. We open up, we continue to climb a little bit, and then, you know, 10:30, 11, maybe 11:30 as the commodities markets close, then that's where the rejection is going to come in, and you're going to have that midday, late day sell-off, in my opinion. That's technically what should happen, but obviously we have to take it day by day. But yeah, I just wanted to look at SOUN and just double check a couple of those things for you. And obviously, day by day as it changes, or we reapproach some of the trend lines, whether it's on the way up or the way down, I'll jump on, I'll do a quick update. But that's it, I'll end it there. Stocks by the numbers. Thanks for stopping by. Questions, comments, drop it in the comment section. Of course, subscribe to the channel. That means a lot to me. Like the video, algorithm, right? But overall, I understand markets are rocky, volatile, and uncertain, so I want to wish all of you success. I hope everyone makes a couple of dollars. Thank you for your time. Have a good day.